My wife accidentally streamed herself getting cozy with our neighbor on our Ring camera, while I was stuck in a Zoom call with 3,000 people listening to me moderate a cryptocurrency discussion. Hi, I'm Zach, 28. My wife Brianna, 26, and I have been together for 3 years, married for 1. I'm what you'd call a crypto influencer. Sounds ridiculous, I know, but I've got 180,000 followers and make decent money doing sponsored content and hosting these live audio discussions about blockchain technology. Brianna works as a freelance graphic designer, mostly logos for small businesses. We live in this weird converted warehouse in Austin that we rent for way too much money, but it came with this elaborate smart home setup that the previous tenant installed. Ring cameras, Alexa everything, smart locks, the whole 9 yards. Brianna loves all the automation, and I use it for content sometimes. Tuesday night I was hosting this big Zoom event about NFT market trends. Had some major guests lined up, including this guy from OpenSea. 3,000 people in the room, which was huge for me. I was in my office upstairs, really in the zone, when my phone started buzzing with notifications that weren't Twitter. At first I ignored them, focused on the discussion, but they kept coming. Then my Discord started blowing up. Then Instagram DMs. I glanced at my phone during a brief pause and saw messages pointing me to my Ring. I minimized the Zoom tab and opened my Ring app, thinking maybe someone was trying to break in or something. But instead of seeing our front door, I saw our living room. And I saw my wife having very loud, very enthusiastic sex with Jay, the guy who lives in the unit below us. Apparently, Brianna had accidentally triggered the indoor camera live stream while I was broadcasting. The Ring app has this feature where you can share your camera feed, and somehow she'd activated it while I was live with 3,000 crypto brothers. But here's the thing that made it worse. I couldn't just quietly turn it off and deal with it later. I was literally moderating a live discussion about blockchain technology while watching my wife cheat on me in real time. And based on the messages flooding in, other people could see it too. The smart home integration meant that when the Ring camera activated, it automatically posted the feed to my smart home dashboard, which I'd stupidly connected to my social media accounts for content creation. So now there was a live stream of my wife and Jay trending on Twitter with my username attached to it. I somehow managed to finish the Zoom call without completely losing it, made some excuse about technical difficulties, and signed off. By the time I got downstairs, Jay was gone and Brianna was in the shower like nothing happened. I just stood there holding my phone, which was still getting notification after notification. The live stream had been screen recorded by dozens of people. It was being shared in group chats, posted on Reddit, turned into memes. My cryptocurrency expertise was now permanently linked to being cuckolded on the internet. I sat on our couch, the same couch where I just watched her with Jay, and tried to figure out what to do. This wasn't like discovering an affair through text messages or suspicious behavior. This was my wife broadcasting her infidelity to my entire professional network by accident. My phone rang. It was Jake, my podcast co-host and best friend. He was trying to make sense of what had just happened, as everyone in the crypto Twitter world was reacting live. Someone had already made a TikTok that was getting tens of thousands of views. It was blowing up faster than anything I'd ever posted intentionally. When Brianna finally came out of the bathroom, I showed her my phone. The color drained from her face as she watched herself trending on Twitter. She sat down next to me, wrapped in a towel, and started crying. She admitted it had been going on for a few weeks. I was stunned by how casually it was said, like she just dropped bad news about a scheduling conflict. She said she felt invisible, like I was always working, always talking about Bitcoin. I looked at her sitting there, apologizing for cheating on me while my phone continued buzzing with notifications. Someone had already made a cryptocurrency-themed remix of the audio. I asked what we were supposed to do now. Her response was to wonder if we could delete it. That's when I started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity hit me all at once. My wife was asking if we could erase a viral internet moment like it was a bad Instagram story. This had been screen recorded by thousands of people. It was already on Reddit, TikTok, Twitter, probably the hub. It wasn't going anywhere. She started crying harder. She said she had ruined everything, my career, my reputation, everything. But as I sat there watching her cry, something weird happened. I realized I wasn't devastated. I was embarrassed, sure, but I wasn't heartbroken. Maybe because the relationship had already felt over for months, or maybe because finding out this way was so ridiculous that it short-circuited my normal emotional responses. The crazy part was that I was probably going to get more followers from this than any crypto content I'd ever made. And I was right. By morning, I'd gained 30,000 new followers across all platforms. #CryptoCuck was trending. Someone had created an NFT collection based on the incident. My DMs were full of podcast interview requests and brand partnership offers. The internet had turned my marriage ending into content, and apparently, I was the main character. But I wasn't done being the main character yet. Within 48 hours, everything changed. The viral moment had essentially ended my marriage and launched my career into the stratosphere simultaneously. Brianna moved out to stay with her sister, partly from embarrassment and partly because Jay's girlfriend had found out and made threats. The internet's attention span is supposed to be short, but this story had legs. Crypto Twitter loved the drama, relationship podcasts wanted interviews, and someone had turned the whole thing into a documentary series proposal. I went from 180k to 400k followers in a week. But here's what nobody expected, I leaned into it. Instead of disappearing in shame, I made the humiliation part of my brand. I started a new podcast called Transparent, where I talked about the intersection of technology, relationships, and privacy in the digital age. The first episode got 2 million downloads. I turned the smart home technology that had exposed my wife's affair into a business opportunity. Home security companies started reaching out for partnerships. I became the poster child for smart home awareness and began consulting on digital privacy. The marriage was obviously over, but the divorce was surprisingly easy. Brianna was so mortified by the public attention that she didn't fight me on anything. She just wanted to disappear and start over somewhere else. Jay, meanwhile, became an internet meme himself. Someone had identified him from the video, and his employer, a local CrossFit gym, fired him for the negative publicity. His girlfriend dumped him publicly on Instagram, posting screenshots of the viral video with crying laughing emojis. 3 months later, I was invited to speak at a technology conference about digital privacy and unintended consequences of smart home integration. The organizers specifically wanted me because of my unique perspective on how personal technology can impact relationships. Standing on that stage, talking to a room full of tech executives about my wife accidentally live streaming her affair, felt surreal. But the audience was engaged, the questions were thoughtful, and I got 3 more speaking gigs from that one talk. 6 months after everything happened, I ran into Brianna at a coffee shop in Austin. She'd dyed her hair blonde and was wearing sunglasses indoors, still trying to avoid recognition. She mentioned hearing about my speaking tour and starting over in Portland. She seemed lighter, genuinely happy. She apologized for how everything had gone down. I told her the public nature of it made it easier, not harder. It forced us to deal with it instead of pretending everything was fine. She asked if I was really okay with how it turned out. I thought about it. My marriage had ended in the most public, humiliating way possible. But I'd also built a career out of it, learned to be vulnerable in public, and gained a strange kind of confidence from surviving something so mortifying. I was better than okay. A year later, I'm writing this from my new apartment in Los Angeles. The speaking career took off enough that I could move somewhere with better opportunities. I'm seeing someone new, a documentary filmmaker who finds my story fascinating rather than embarrassing. The original viral video still gets shared occasionally, usually when people talk about smart home security or cryptocurrency drama. But instead of being the punchline, I've become the guy who turned digital humiliation into digital success. Brianna and I text occasionally. She's doing well in Portland, building a new client base, staying offline mostly. Jay apparently moved back to his hometown in Ohio. The internet forgot about him pretty quickly, but he'll always be one Google search away from that moment. People ask if I regret not handling it differently, if I wish I'd kept it private somehow. But honestly, there was no keeping it private once it went viral. The choice was whether to be a victim of the story or the author of what came next. I chose to be the author. The weirdest part is that I'm genuinely grateful it happened. Not grateful for the cheating or the betrayal, but grateful that it forced me to build something authentic instead of just performing happiness online. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that could have happened. Sometimes going viral for all the wrong reasons teaches you how to be real for all the right ones. The internet never forgets, but it also never stops creating new opportunities for people brave enough to be honest about their failures. I'm still the crypto guy whose wife accidentally live streamed her affair, and I probably always will be. But now I'm also the guy who showed you can survive anything if you're willing to own your story completely.